Ah yes, UK top court rules definition of a woman based on sex at birth. No shit, Sherlock, and in case you're wondering, no, there is no way in hell I am reading this pile of wank. If you want that, I would suggest you watch Stankular's video on this. Shout out to the Scotsman, by the way. Dank, you want to say hello?
I don't like democracy. I think democracy is gay and cringe. Democracy is cringe and gay.
Fantastic. God bless the poor bastard for suffering through the Guardian's molding over this. I mean, my word, that was something else. Can you tell I've been drinking? I took a sizable shot of Four Roses and, man, it's kind of kicking me. But anyway, we shall continue. You know what that article reminded me of? You know when you were at school and you were told to write about something with a minimum amount of words? Basically that. I was thinking, my word, I can't believe someone was paid money to write so much arse about a phenomenon that means absolutely fuck all to civilization. Speaking as a monarchist, though, and therefore favoring traditionalism above all else, because it's sane, it propels me to look at human civilization through the lens of anthropology and abandon any notion of ideology, especially the modern variety, because quite clearly it's gay and fucking stupid. Quite literally, actually. Given the above, you'd be safe to assume I don't give a flying rat's bollock about any of this, and you'd be correct in that assumption. So why am I talking about this? Oh, a myriad of reasons. Starting with the English Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, who said that he welcomed the decision of the Supreme Court, which has given us clarity, much needed clarity, and I think for those that are now drawing up guidance, it's a much clearer position.
My fucking god, I'm getting enlightened by the day, aren't I?
You can tell me about it, V. I didn't know we had to defer to the expertise of the UK Supreme Court on the subject of basic bitch biology. If you happen to pay attention to English politics, and it's fine if you don't, believe me, the English aren't exactly thrilled to do so either. You'd remember Keir Starmer, because I'm not calling him sir, he can fuck right off. He was on LBC in June of 2023, I believe, where Nick Ferrari asked him, point blank, so can women have a penis? And instead of saying the based obvious, you're an idiot, Tesco Value Midlife Crisis himself proceeded to put on the most cringe-worthy struggle session ever recorded in all of human history. Thankfully for him, though, most people have forgotten on account of modern man having the attention span of a damn cockroach, and he happens to be one of the most boring people to ever live. But this is quite the drastic turnaround then, isn't it? It just shows you what an absolutely pathetic twat that wanker is, that he had to wait almost 2 bloody years and for the safety of the damn court to acknowledge something a 5-year-old would say. Freaking hell, fortitude so lackluster he makes Chamberlain look like Hercules. It also goes to show you that politicians don't give a flying crap what the hell is objectively right, or even the will of the people. When push comes to shove, no, they will simply defer to power. What blows my mind though, never mind the fact that it involves a sitting member of the government of a first world nation, a grown man was asked on public radio in 2023, do women have male genitals? And at no point does anyone snap and just say, what the fuck are you idiots doing? No one sane can look at this and speculate the Western world is not run by the deranged and the cognitively impaired. All of this leads to something Dankula said in that video, talking about how you can do whatever you want, identify as whatever, mutilate whatever, dress as whatever, short of saying 3 little words. 3 little words we've all heard a million times, but for whatever reason this time around, hit me a little differently. I don't care. And I thought, and maybe that's the problem. Content creators, for the most part, venerate freedom. Liberty is revered as the apex of civilization. Not exactly sure why. Possibly because, despite the fact that we live in a so-called liberal democracy and we get to choose our leaders, will of the people, all of that coping nonsense, we hate our governments, and everyone in it has the reputation of a snake and a stench reeking of corruption. But so long as people believe in that myth, they will stay high and do nothing. We are skeptical of those in power, supposedly. However, the last 7 years of life on this planet has forced me to confront and reevaluate a couple of things. Mainly to completely abandon the concept of human autonomy. Your base instinct is survival, and the building blocks of survival is security and resource gathering. This is basic biology, hardwired into your DNA, and you cannot escape it. I'm not saying this to be a contrarian, no, I'm saying this because this is observable reality. But human beings as a mass are stupid hierarchical mammals, and they are hardwired to obey authority. And if you think that's harsh, pause for a moment and ask yourself, how much of what people believe nowadays holds absolutely zero value to the betterment of your civilization, and are just believed because of social currency and basically nothing else? It's quite a lengthy list, that, isn't it? Again, look at the last decade of life on Earth. People will believe ideas that lead to the civilization's suicide so long as there's social capital in doing so. That's how you know the marketplace of ideas gimmick is just that. It's a gimmick. One built on this assumption that rational and reasonable ideas will somehow win. The problem with that assumption is rational and reasonable ideas are often conditional, and more importantly, what's rational and reasonable is very often not popular. Look at the actions of women, for example. It's rational and completely reasonable to exclude them from any and all participation in matters of statecraft. However, that's not exactly popular, but I digress. I've said this before many a time now. I do not believe in freedom. I think freedom is one of the most overrated concepts, especially in the Western world. If you listen to what people actually want, they don't want freedom. What they desire is a type of order, and always one that grants them more freedom and often at the expense of everybody else. Think of your two extremes: state of nature versus total state subjugation. Where is your acceptable middle ground? Entering society, law and order guarantees your private property isn't damaged and read whilst you aren't there. There's a consequence for violating your private property, and there's a mechanism to settle disputes between parties, hopefully in a non-violent manner. That's the most basic contract. Do the people who scream about wanting freedom all damn day long actually want to live in the state of nature? No. Because what they want is this bloody irritating thing called rights, and as Andrew Wilson said, a right is an entitlement absent of duty. Your desire for so-called anti-discrimination laws is nothing more than pathetically begging for the state to save you from the feeling of your ass getting hurt. Your freedom from discrimination comes at my expense to discriminate. And so the question I have is, what the hell makes your Cinderella ass so precious that you get to violate my capacity to discriminate against you? What about you is so valuable to my civilization that your guaranteed protection justifies growth of the state? Do tell! The push is always about this nonsense of freedom too. Never is there a discussion as to why. The one side views the state as evil, and for good reason, and the other side wants more of it to guarantee them doing whatever the hell they want. The state is always going to side with the latter because it grows the state and the client class. Here's the problem though for the former. We are hierarchical creatures, and we are social creatures. If you do not want the state to care, then someone else has to. I'll say that again. If you don't want the state to care, then someone else has to. There has to be a middle ground between you're the most precious thing in the world, polish your rack of participation trophies, and you're a minus cog in the machine, now slave away from a GDP. Because it's obvious that no one gravitating towards the rainbow hippie ideology are mentally sound and healthy human beings. Something is wrong there. A nation is its people, and if you live in a society where you can literally cull your capacity to produce offspring and no one cares enough to intervene, that is not a healthy society. That is apathetic to the point of suicidal. Living in one where this is not only permitted, but encouraged, and people do so for social affirmation, that is insane, demonic, and nightmarishly dystopian. Jordan Peterson is wrong, and lately for so many freaking reasons, but radical individualism is not right. As a matter of fact, that goes so far as to say that radical individualism is fucking toxic. Cheers for watching once again. I apologize for nothing.